Good morning, everybody. We are live. Everybody was asking. This is Gangster Kitty. As you can see, she is not pleased. Um, sh- Everybody was asking. Y'all got to meet Dolly Parton. This is Ra Ra, aka Gangster Kitty. As you can tell, she she is not happy. I'm the only human being on the face of the planet that can do this, and I don't know how long I'm going to get away with it. Oh, I know. That's my good girl. Yeah. Um, this won't last long, and then she'll turn into a Cuisinart. Yeah, that's my gangster kitty. Yeah. Okay, down you go. Come on. Easy. Good girl. I know. Anyways, that's gangster kitty. Um, Everybody else in the house is terrified of her. Anyways, we got. Let's talk about it. We got the press and AI. Both are a problem. Let's get to it. Well, folks, what do we do? What do we do when the press, the corporate media becomes the enemy? We're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about the press. We're going to talk about AI. We're going to do a little update on what's going on in Kursk. It's a good time. There's kind of a lull in the news, so it's a good time to dive into this. It really is. There's nothing major breaking going on. Trump's just being an idiot. I'm not even going to play it. Talking in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, one of the most, if you're in politics, you know the significance of Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. Dumbass Trump has given one of his stupid rallies there, and he tells everybody, all these people from North Carolina, they want me talking. They want me talking. Dude, you're in Pennsylvania, not North Carolina. Anyways, we're not going to do that. I'm not going to waste your time and show you a bunch of Trump crap. I'm not going to do it. Just not going to do it. It's not worth it. Same old tired, recycled attacks. And the guy's got pudding for brains. He does. I mean, thinks he's in frickin' North Carolina when he's in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. Anyways, what I do want to talk to you about is something important, though. This was the thumbnail for today's show, and it really is important. The things that are going on. We brought Sarah back, and the other woman here pictured is Maureen Dowd. You folks that have been involved in politics for a while know who Maureen Dowd is. Maureen Dowd is one of those people that has spent the last couple of decades talking down her nose to us liberals. Talking down her nose to us liberals and telling us why we liberals are doing everything wrong. She is a columnist for the New York Times. And she just, once again, got it majorly wrong. This is her latest article from the New York Times. Maureen Dowd. The Dems are delighted, but a coup is still a coup. Playing into that right-wing narrative that we somehow wronged Joe Biden when it was Joe Biden himself that made the call. You know, folks, they love to say this stuff because they're making light of January 6th. They're making light of what Donald Trump tried to do. Donald Trump tried to overthrow our democracy. He engaged in a coup. He worked with Republicans that are still sitting in Congress today. Ted Cruz, one of them, that were working with Donald Trump to engage in an actual coup to overturn the results of a legitimate election. She is playing into this narrative to soften January 6th, to say it wasn't that big a deal, by comparing it to something which is a political party and their donor class saying, look, we're not liking the look of this. We're not liking where it's heading. We really need you to step down for another candidate. Y'all know I was riding with Biden all the way. Hey, thanks for the support. Eva, Beretta, Sharmi, Jesperson, you've got from North Korea. Wow, good to see you. Or not from North Korea. I'm sorry. Where are you from, Eva? Where are you coming to us from? That's Norwegian kroner, I believe it is. Oslo, Norway. Awesome. Glad you're here, man. I love our European audience. Please engage in the chat while you're here, Eva, because it is a big deal. It is a really big deal. You have to forgive mine. Just didn't catch that, Eva. I'm glad you're here. Love our European audience. That conversation back and forth is priceless because you folks that are here from Europe, that are here from Africa, that are here from Australia, that are here from, all over the world, please be understanding. We are surrounded on both sides by two oceans, and we are only subjected to our media. So yeah, we don't get this interaction as much as we would really, really like to. And talking to you folks is priceless. So please engage heavily in the chat. Let's hear your comments. Ecuador in the house. All right. Awesome. Our Canadian friends also, y'all face the same situation. You're surrounded on both sides by oceans, and we're somewhat isolated here in the Americas, and our views can get a bit focused based on what we see. And I'm really glad you're here. But I want to get back to Maureen now and what the press is doing. Joe Biden listened to his donors who cut the spigot off. We all saw what happened with the debate. We know that Joe Biden was wildly popular amongst us Democrats. He was having difficult traction with the independents, which is where, this election is really fought, is among what's left of the electorate that you can influence. And he made a decision, and he released his delegates and endorsed Kamala Harris. That was his choice. That is not a coup, folks. That is not a coup. That is self-sacrifice. This article spits in the face of President Biden, who did one of the least selfish things I've ever seen anyone in politics do. You have to be somewhat self-serving to be in politics. You do, because you're willing to stand up and say, I am your leader. That in and of itself is self-focused. It really is. For a politician to stand up and say, you know what? I'm not the best thing for us or the country. I'm going to not only release my delegates, which, again, not a coup, that's normal, but I'm going to go out and I'm going to work for my vice president. I'm going to work for the candidate that represents the party. No, that's not a coup. Not even close to it. That is a political party that is effective. That is a political party that is on fire. But of course, Maureen Dowd, who's, like I said, has spent the last several decades talking nonsense about, talking down her nose to us liberals about how terrible we liberals are, comes out with an article that absolutely parrots the right-wing talking points where they're trying to create division in the Democratic Party about how we betrayed Joe Biden and all this. She is just a perfect example of the problem. And we're going to talk about it a little bit more, but we're going to turn 180 degrees first. I'm actually going to praise the Washington Post. But before I do that, I want to show you this. I put a short out yesterday. You may have heard me talk about this. This is what J.D. Vance said about the policy proposal that came out of the Harris-Walz campaign. We're talking policy. We're talking about what we're going to do. You've heard about the $25,000 incentive to help first-time home buyers. We have a housing crunch right now, and it's, like most things, complex. You have housing shortages in many markets, like, say, California. California is really a tight market because a lot of people want to live in California. But you have places like Florida where the housing market is crashing. So what do? Well, this is a great policy for that. It provides some help, some easing to folks that are in really tight markets trying to buy. But it also helps with that soft landing in markets that are really sliding because it incentivizes purchases. You have interest rates that are coming down, which is going to tighten the housing market again. And then you're going to see additional policy action, not so much legislation, but policy action. You're going to see things like government guaranteed mortgages of new construction only. Things like that. There are things that the government can do to help in these situations. And that's what Kamala Harris is doing. What are the Republicans doing? They're saying crap like this. Kamala Harris wants to give $25,000 to illegal aliens to buy American homes, yada, 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 yada. That was their response. Why? Because they know. When I tell you people, you are better than they are, I show you examples of why you are better than they are. Maga are bigots at their core. They are bigots. Bigots before all. And they know it. That's why Putin's militarized immigration is used on the right wing all over the world. All over the world, because at the core of conservatism is bigotry. It always has been, and it always will be. And I want you to look at this next segment that we talk about through that lens, because this is the article I'm telling I'm going to tell you how terrible the corporate media is, but when they get one right, you've got to tell them they got one right. The Washington Post just came out with this article. It's a great article. I want you to go read it after the show. By the way, hit the thumbs up button and hit the subscribe button so that we can get as many people as possible in here. The Washington Post just ran an article. You can see the headline here: Republicans flood TV with misleading ads about immigration and the border. For you folks that are longtime members of the audience, part of the community, you know that I told you back in January, February, that's when you set your narratives. And then you just spend the next several months just banging away on those narratives until your people are repeating them. And that's exactly what's happened here. This article is actually really good. They talk about that the Republicans have spent $250 million basically just lying to people, showing them the images that are just stock photos, claiming that there are arrests that are happening, insinuating that there are arrests that are happening, and they're not. They're fabricated. They're stock images. They showed pictures of gang members that were in Venezuela and insinuated they were here because of immigration. They just lied over and over and over. They lied about the crime statistics. They lied about everything. And spent $250 million doing it. But here's the deal. Why? I mean, we know we talked about Sarah before. Sarah's back. We talked about Sarah before and what they were going to do. We knew, I told you there was going to be a caravan, and I told you there was going to be a Sarah. They were going to go out and they were going to find a pretty little, of course, this is completely AI generated. She doesn't exist, but they were going to go find themselves a Sarah who's a victim, and they were going to show that ad nauseum over and over and over again. That's what they're going to do. Told you. And they spent $250 million doing that exact thing. But here's the interesting part. Here's where they spin it. And it'll give you a better understanding of just how fake this is. Ohio, Indiana, Montana. You don't get to a border state in the top 5 where this ad spending was. Texas is the only border state in the top 10 where they spent this money. Why? Because it has nothing to do with the actual border. It has nothing to do with what's really going on at the border at all. I mean, we've seen the reality. We know that Kamala Harris, they want to call her the border czar. Great. Good job, Kamala. Illegal immigration is an all-time low. They've been making massive busts. They're catching the drugs coming across the border. We talked about that. An American citizen went across the border in Arizona, went down, bought 4 million pills of fentanyl, shoved them inside a trailer, and tried to mule them back because that's the way the drug trade works. It's not the Mexican cartels importing drugs into the United States. It's Americans going down that are part of American distribution systems selling drugs here in the United States. It's American criminals. It's a homegrown problem. Distributing drugs, got busted coming across the border. Good job, Customs and Border Patrol. Good job. But more than that, this whole crime thing, you've heard them talk about it. You've heard them talk about it online and whatnot. You've seen it happen. Well, it's not based in reality. None of it is. Here's an interesting fact for you. The majority of Americans that are alive today were not alive the last time crime statistics were this low. That's a fact. That's just a fact. The majority of Americans were not alive the last time crime statistics were this low. So why is this getting traction? Well, one, it's the corporate media was more than happy to run with bullshit. They were more than happy to run with bullshit. And two, it's all the Republicans have. They've jumped on that message and stayed on that message. Best economy we've had in modern times. Yet every Maga out there believes the economy's terrible. Most believe we're in a recession, if you can believe that. They believe that crime is terrible. We're having an invasion. They believe that. But why do they believe it? Because they're bigots and they want to believe it. Because they're bigots. That's who they are. And you just can't let them off. So why have the Republicans spent where they spent? Well, this is why. This is why. Ohio was the number one spending. Sherrod Brown versus Bernie Moreno. One of the most hotly contested Senate races in the country. They are going all in. They have spent a massive fortune trying to drag Bernie Moreno, a highly flawed candidate, over the finish line to try to take Sherrod Brown's seat in Ohio. They think Sherrod Brown is vulnerable. Recent polling shows he's not. But this is why they spent so much in Ohio, because they think that they can get the bigots to get upset. Even though the economy is doing great, even though crime, again, the majority of Americans who are alive today have never been alive at a time when crime statistics were as low as they are. And you've got people like Maureen Dowd willing to run ridiculous articles that aren't true. You've got the corporate media that have been willing to go on and on and on about it. And, again, I'll praise the Washington Post for that one article, but don't get too excited about the Washington Post because they're the same people that ran this article. While we're talking about races and whatnot, they're the same people that ran this article. Harris holds slight national lead over Trump post ABC Ipsos poll finds. What's wrong with this article, you say? Well, fact is, this is the actual lead that's important. That's not slight. Among likely voters, the same poll, same data set, has Harris up 51-45. If you read that article, they read the general results, not the likely voters. General results mean crap in a poll. Harris is up 51-45 among likely voters. That's huge, folks. That is a massive lead. 5 points is a blowout. 5 points is a blowout. Don't let your feet off the gas. Stay focused. Polls don't mean crap. Votes mean everything. But yeah, 5 points is a blowout. And let me explain to you why this is so bad. The folks at the Washington Post, thanks for the support. I really appreciate it. You pay for these subscriptions. You pay to keep me broadcasting. I'm grateful. Thank you very much. Rich says bigotry seems to be the Repug's only platform. It is. They have nothing. They have no policies. They have no response to that $25,000 incentive. So what did they do? They ran straight to bigotry. Absolutely. Let me explain what's wrong with that article. And let me remind you that the Washington Post knows this. They are very good at politics. They know what they just did there. They said it's a 47-44 race. Polling. If you wanted to manipulate a data set, you would run the article that the Washington Post just ran. And let me explain why. Let's say you wanted to see what was going on at something out in space, and you wanted to collect data on it. Well, you could go out and you could look at the sky, and that would give you a data set of what's going on in space. It would be absolutely useless to you because it would just be flooded with everything that's going on. Or you could go to a telescope, one of our modern space telescopes, and one of our modern facilities with all of the ability to measure actually what's going on in minute areas of space, and you could get that very focused data that would actually give you the data you're looking for. Both data sets are the same. It's just one is everything, which is useless to you, and the other is what's really going on and what you really wanted to know. That's what the Washington Post just did. The focus on what's really going on with the likely voters shows Kamala Harris is kicking the living crap out of Trump, which is a great thing, a fantastic thing. But they can't have that. They can't say that. Why? Well, that $250 million in ad spending we just told you about, yeah, they want that money. They want that money to keep coming. And if they keep running articles that tell you what's really going on, which is within the likely voters, that ad money quits coming in. It does. The Billionaire Frat Boy Club has to keep feeling like they're getting somewhere, or that ad money stops. So the corporate media is more than happy to sit there and run an article that says, oh, Kamala Harris has just a slight lead when she is kicking the shit out of Trump. Now, is that everything? No, it is not, folks. I want to caution you. I want to caution you. Do not let your foot off the gas. Do not. Polls are not votes. We have to get the votes out. We do. And the Republicans are spending like drunken sailors in Indiana. Why Indiana? You have Valerie McRae versus Jim Banks. Braun, the sitting senator, isn't running for re-election, so you don't have an incumbent. This could be a pickup for us, folks, in Indiana. It's an uphill fight. Why? Because Indiana is like Alabama. Rural Indiana is Alabama. It is. It is full of Maga bigots, people that want to hear things like there's an invasion and the cartels are down at your local grocery store trying to rape your daughter. I mean, they want to hear that, even though it's not based in any reality whatsoever. So yeah, they are spending like drunken sailors in Indiana, trying to hold on to a seat that we could possibly pick up if we get to work. Another one that they're spending on is in Montana. This is going to be a fight. This is going to be a fight. John Tester versus Tim Cheehy. They are spending like drunken sailors in Montana to try to take down John Tester. So far, Tester's fending them off. The polls look good. Cannot take our feet off the gas. We just cannot. But that's why so much of that ad money with Putin's militarized border nonsense was spent. And again, I just want to remind you folks, we talked about this. I talked about setting your narratives, and we did a great job. We did a really great job. People are looking at Trump like they've never looked at him before. Yes, John Edgar, great point. Vote down ballot 2. Thank you for making that point, my friend. We talked about that. They set their narrative. It's up to us. It's up to us in this last 80 days to blow that narrative out of the water. That is what I'm doing here. That is what I'm doing here. And there are things that you can say, Randy Oliver, Lone Kamala, you're fact bad, the debate, and never waver. Absolutely. This is going to be important. This is going to be important. The debate's going to be huge, but there are things that you can do. That talking point I just gave you is true. That's why it's so powerful. Hey, keep the fact bat right here all the time. 100%. It is 100% fact. The majority of Americans weren't even alive the last time crime was this low. That's a great talking point, folks. Democrats aren't using it. You use it. You use it. Every time you hear them talk about the border, every time you hear them talk about crime or anything like that, Travel on Trish. That's a great name. I like that. Thank you for all the valuable info, Texas Paul. Thank God there's some sane people in Texas. There's a lot of us here, Trish. There really are. I am not a one-off here in Texas. I'm just the one willing to put up with the low character Republican trash. They can attack me all they want. Most people just ignore them, just blow them off. Let me tell you, I was at a little shindig last night. And I have to tell you, there were a lot of MAGA there. And one of them pulled out their phone and showed an ad. It was a Trump ad. And I got to tell you, it's different. It really, really is different. What would have normally happened is when they showed that ad, several people would have been hooting and hollering and laughing and that's not what happened. Even people I know are MAGA. Their response was, oh man, I don't want to talk about that nonsense. The excitement factor on the right is over. Nobody is excited. Thanks, Kelly. I appreciate you. I really do appreciate you. Thank you. You pay for the subscriptions and all that stuff, and I'm grateful. But yeah, the excitement on the right is over. I mean, I witnessed it with my own eyes last night at a party where these people would normally have been, woo, yeah, boy, Trump's going to stick. No, that wasn't the response. I was kind of just sitting back, kind of taken back by that. Several people that were MAGA were like, man, I don't want to hear about that. I don't want to hear about that. That was the response, the actual response. I mean, it was great. And they are having problems in their own ranks. Because remember, I told you, this is the part of the campaign where they try to put the shit back in the horse. All the crazy stuff that they said, they try to moderate. Laura, Senate race is still looking pretty good. Keep up the support there. Yeah, absolutely. Y'all remember the website that y'all purchased, voteenoughisenough.com. We are working on that because we're going to do a big push in the last portion of the election. We're putting the candidates, their act blue, and the numbers where you can call and volunteer to postcard, block walk, all that information. We're looking at, I wanted to wait until we got the tighter races so that we could see where we really needed to focus. And over the next week, I want you to go check that website out. Starting about next week, we're really going to be pushing it. All of these campaigns that we're talking to you about right now will be listed on that website, along with several other House races and races that we can really make a difference. But yeah, the right is having a problem. You know, La Civita is trying to run a campaign where they're trying to moderate Trump, and he doesn't talk about the 2025 project, and he lies to people flat out. You know, we talked about it in the last show. He's going to cut your electric bills by 50 to 70%. Bullshit. I mean, he's just throwing promises, crazy promises out there that are just a load of crap because they got nothing. And their own base, you got people like Nick Fuentes, we've talked about him before, that are attacking Trump's own campaign because they're trying to moderate, and it's pissing off their base. Their base doesn't want to moderate. Their base loves the radical stuff. And this is something that the radicals are claiming. Yeah, we talked about Lewandowski. They're thinking, oh, well, Lewandowski means that the radical stuff's going to keep coming. No, that's not what Corey Lewandowski does. No, he beats the crap out of people like Nick Fuentes. That's his job. They're going so far as to calling it a civil war in MAGA. I mean, they're really having messaging problems. They were not prepared for Joe Biden to be as selfless and as wonderful a leader as he was. They never saw it coming. So they literally, even though they were running the Joe needs to step down stuff, they were paying the Russian trolls, the Russian bots, and all of that. They were never prepared for it to actually happen because in their minds, they could never imagine selflessness. it never crossed their mind that a politician would put the country first. So they had nothing, literally nothing. They're in the last 3 months, they're trying to reinvent a campaign. And the only thing that they have is what they've been beating the drum beats on about immigration and Putin's weaponized immigration. So yeah, things are looking good, folks. They are looking good. They really are. I want to pivot away from local politics to wrap this up. We're going to have a little bit shorter show today. We may have time for a little roundtable at the end, but we're not going to be able to go an hour and a half today. I've got some engagements that I cannot miss. But I want to give you an update on what's going on in Kursk. This is kind of a big deal. You remember when we were first talking about, first covering the invasion into Russia, Ukraine's invasion into Russia. I was explaining, look, they're going to try to hit Elgov and Kursk, and that's the direction they took. If you look at the territory they took, they were running up the highway here, the R200 to Kursk. There's the Kursk nuclear power plant. Elgov is a processing center. It is the hub for Russian sugar. We talked about this. I also said, I don't think, and most mill bloggers, everybody, were saying, look, Alexander Syrski, this is a negotiation tactic. They're going to do some damage. They're going to force Russia to move troops out of the east, and they're going to refocus on reattacking the east. It looks like we were wrong. Alexander Syrski has really just shocked us all. They're not pushing on to Kursk. What's happened? I got another map here for you. Don't laugh. It is literally from one of the mill bloggers I follow. It is drawn on with a Sharpie. Don't laugh, but it's accurate. You see this area to the left here that he's got marked off, and what that's about. This is a really big deal. What's happened here? We'll go back to the other map. This is a really big deal. What's happened here, and it shows that seriously. I mean, wow! Nobody saw this happening. Everybody. Like I said, if they extend too far, what the Russians are going to try to do is they're going to move troops. They're going to move troops up through Volgograd, because remember, they have troops north of Kharkiv, and this area of Ukraine in the east, they control all of. They have a ton of troops there. They're dug in trying to dare the Ukrainians to push eastward. Well, I told you, they're going to run troops north up out of Volgograd if the Ukrainians overextend, and they're going to try to push in with a pincer movement from Medvinka here. They still control Elgov. They fortified troops in Elgov, and they tried. They pushed south, east from Elgov, and they pushed due east from Medvinka. The Ukrainians decimated them, absolutely destroyed all of the troops coming out of Elgov, captured tons of armor, tons of Russian troops, and fought back the troops that were coming out of Medvinka. What was really interesting about this and what's going on here is you see this little town here of Glushkovo. This is testimony to the fact that the Ukrainians aren't going anywhere. Remember that area that was drawn on with Sharpies? What that was about is this. See Glushkovo here? And then all of a sudden you see this red road closed. Yeah. This bridge over the same doesn't exist anymore. So the same river, which is a natural barrier here, There's no way for the Russians to fortify their troops here west of the Ukrainian offensive. That's huge, folks. That means that the Russians can't flank the Ukrainians. And two, and that's not the only bridge they're destroying. And two, that means the Ukrainians are there to stay. And no, Russia didn't blow that up. It was the Ukrainians that blew it up. The Ukrainians have blown up bridge after bridge after bridge. They can no longer fortify and support their troops west of the Ukrainian invasion. They're going to starve. They don't have the ammunition for an extended fight. They can no longer threaten Kyiv. All of the missile sites, artillery, it's gone. It's just a matter of time. And that absolutely tells us something very different than what we thought was going to happen. We thought this was, like I said, going to be an incursion, and they would draw some troops off and try to help themselves in the fight in the east. No, they're here to stay. They're going to take this territory. They're not going to overextend. They're going to slug this out. The other thing that is really, really interesting, and I want to talk to you about, Sarah, is how they did it. The war in Ukraine is changing warfare. Exactly, Deborah. Cut the supply lines and you win. Absolutely. Absolutely. The worst place to be in a siege is inside the city walls. It just is. Where does Sarah come into this? Wars change society. Technologically, for the good, usually they do. And Lori B., I'm glad you brought up the F-16s. I'm glad you did. Because what we're seeing in Ukraine is something very, very different. The Ukrainians did not invade Russia in the way that we understand warfare. Typically, you start out with an artillery barrage and a bombing campaign. You soften up the defenses. Then you lead with a spearheaded armor attack, which is basically tanks are rolling artillery is what they are. And you break through lines, followed by and supported by infantry. Then they stabilize the position. You move your artillery up, rinse and repeat. That's not what Ukraine did here at all. This offensive was carried out by light armored vehicles, armored personnel carriers predominantly, and drones. See, the Russians have S-400 radar systems set up. They've got anti-aircraft batteries set up all over that region. This was not jets came in and bombed the crap out of everything. Bombers came in and bombed. No, none of that happened. The Ukrainians absolutely decimated the Russians without the use of heavy tanks, without the use of artillery, by using drones and AI. They have new drone launchers that we've seen that are just amazing. I'll get some video of it to show you, where they're armored vehicles. They've got a hatch that opens up on the top, and then two arms stand up. And on those arms, there's half a dozen drones on each arm, and they take off. And they're AI controlled. They're pre-programmed. And not just pre-programmed with a coordinate, they actually have software controlling them that allows them to be incredibly effective. And what does that mean for the future? Well, I'll give you an example of what this means. Do you remember battleships? Yeah, they don't exist anymore. They're not a thing. Why? Because technology like this came along. Now the biggest, baddest boat in the water is a destroyer. Battleships just don't exist anymore. We just saw heavy armored attacks go away in lieu of drones. And that is huge, folks. That is huge. I want you to envision the technology that's going to come out of this war and what it's going to mean to you. And that's where I'm going to ask you to take a leap with me, because this is the kind of thing that's going to take your imagination to envision. We're seeing AI used in an unprecedented way in warfare. You're going to see article after article about how warfare has changed. Well, out of warfare comes technology. All of our modern cars, MRIs came out of our military, tools, all of your modern tools, all of your battery operated tools, all of that came out of the military. I mean, there's just technology after technology. What we're talking on right now, the internet, came out of technology from the military. This war in Ukraine is changing our technology again. Exactly. GPS. You've seen it all. I want you to try to imagine for a second what is going to happen. Speaking, Linda Thalman says, speaking from Europe, France, we so support Ukraine. They lose and we all lose. USA will lose too. Support Ukraine. Amen. Well said, Linda. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for being our voice in Europe. And absolutely, Slava Ukraini, 100%. But I want you to think about Sarah for a second. She's our AI creation. And I want you to imagine that. You're working at your desk, and Sarah pops up. And Sarah, in her beautiful AI generated voice, tells you, hello, hi, I'm sorry, but due to reality on the business reality, we have had to make changes here at the company. I'm going to need you to pack up your personal effects. Security will be here shortly to escort you from the building. HR will be contacting you with your severance package. You're no longer employed here. Have a good day. Yeah, Sarah is going to take a lot of freaking jobs. And I don't mean just workers. You have to remember, who does AI work for? When the coders and the software engineers, when they built it, when they created it, who did they make it for? That's a serious question to you guys, because I want you thinking about this. Who did they make AI for? Bingo. Evie's aunt. Bingo. You know, they sell all of these new things. Like, remember when they told you about the internet? What did they tell you about the internet? Oh, it's going to be competition. Prices are going to come down. It's going to be amazing. Have prices ever come down? Or have we continued along with the same inflation that we've always had? Minus dips and swells from things like global pandemics. since the creation of the internet, your prices haven't gone down. Why? Because it was never made for you. The same people that make AI, they didn't make it for you. Now, they're going to sell it as how great it's going to be in your life, but you're not their customer. It's your boss, the company you work for. Exactly. AI and bots don't have to be paid. But what's the difference with AI and robots? You know, we've had robots taking jobs for years on assembly lines. Welders are all but a thing of the past. Really, if you're not out in a field where it's really hard to set up a robot, your welding's done by a machine. Colleen Sarah says at Governor Walz's rally Saturday, La Vista, Nebraska, the energy, strength, and strangers becoming friends, joy, and excitement was incredible. It was. It really was. It was amazing. I elected not to cover this show because I didn't want it to be the same show over and over and over again. But I want to go back to, this is important that you understand this. You are not the customer for AI. Google is the customer for AI. Meta is the customer for AI. Every major corporation that you know of, you've already seen the pre-programmed, horrible, non-human, let me take your phone call and try to direct you into a pre-programmed response. Well, that's just going to get infinitely better, and you're going to get more of that because they don't want to pay people. And I want to give you this vision here for how far this is going to go and what a game changer for automation AI is. And I want to tie it back into the political crap that we're seeing out of billionaires today. There were only so many jobs you could automate. A lot of jobs really required somebody that could think on their feet and do what they needed that. And let me pick one job in particular. I was talking to Mrs. Texas Paul about this as we were coming home. You know, I told you a long, long time ago, I used to work on road crew. The boss is a guy that had to have years of experience. He's the guy that knew how much material we needed. He's the guy that knew when we needed it. He's the guy that could tell each individual crew when and where they needed to be and what equipment they had to have. AI can do all of that. And now I want you to imagine there's a storm and roads are washed out. Well, it used to take an inspector to go out and look at the damage and assess what we need to do. Not anymore. Believe me, if Ukraine can run a war on AI-controlled drones, oh yeah, they can fix a road. And I'm not talking about the grunts out there doing the labor. I'm talking about when the report comes in that there's damage on a road, or even a report is even necessary because they know how to program AI to understand what happens during floods. A drone shows up. A drone can measure how much damage has been done to a road. They can calculate how much material is needed. They can dispatch a crew to set up barricades. They can dispatch a crew to do the repairs. And unfortunately, Kelly, that's not a problem anymore. They have shielded chips now. It's not the grunt jobs. And I'll give you an example of why that's the case. Walmart gave up on automation in its stores. For years, Walmart spent a ton of money working on robots to pull inventory off shelves to fulfill online orders. And they gave up on it. Why? Because humans can be cheap. We've been trained in this country, and our European audience, I want you to really hear this about us Americans. Our working class has been conditioned to work cheap and with shitty benefits and to not complain. It has literally been worked into the culture on the right that if you complain, you're broken. There's something wrong with you. And Walmart knows this. They gave up on automation to do the grunt work, the cheap stuff, the really cheap stuff. So when I tell you about this road crew work, it's not the grunts that are going to be filling in and driving the machine, operating the machines that are going to go away. No, they're just going to work really freaking cheap for no benefits. It's the guy that makes the six figures who's going away. Sarah's coming for him. And that's just a fact. And you've got to be prepared for that. So let me put it to you this way. This is coming. Automated trucks are coming. They're already looking at, within the government, I can tell you, they are looking at highway bills to create AI-only lanes for trucks, for shipping, to go from depot to depot to depot. The technology is really not there so much. Amazon is trying for local deliveries and whatnot, but it doesn't work out that great because people have vandalized the machines. There are all kinds of problems that happen. But from shipping depot to shipping depot to from port to distribution centers, all of that long over-the-road trucking, yeah, in about 10 years, you're going to see it starting to evaporate because they're going to come up with dedicated lanes. What do we do when those jobs that are the jobs that somebody can go out and earn a middle class to upper middle class living go away? My question to you, who do you want running the country when that happens? Do you want Republicans and their history and where they stand, their company men? Or do you want Democrats that understand that when these technological advances come and these doors close and Sarah pops up on your screen, you're 10 years from retirement, 5 years from retirement, and tells you to pack your things, security's on their way, have a good day, you no longer work here? Who do you want running the country? Because that kind of thing, folks, I hate to tell you this. I'd love to sell you some pie in the sky. Oh, we Democrats will keep it from happening. We won't. We never have. Democrats cannot stop the robots. They cannot stop AI from happening. Those that have want it, and they want it bad. And we as a party can't stop them. What we can do is represent the people. Things like guaranteed basic income. You know that socialism that the Republicans rail against? We're going to need a lot more of that. That's real, folks. Fact check me on any of this. So I'm asking you, pretty please, don't take your foot off the gas. This is why I do this. I spend my life driving my wife up the wall, talking to her about these types of scenarios that are really happening and really coming. Folks, if they can run a war on AI, they will run your business off the same technology that's even better in a couple years from now. They will. And exactly, what Linda Hoxha says, at Social Security, I do industrial coding. We had 2 units with a total of 50 employees max. AI now does 95% of the coding, and I'm one of about 10 employees doing what the computer can't. Exactly, Linda. Exactly. Thank you for that real world example of what I'm talking about. Those were good, high paying jobs that are gone. And that's the government. That's the government. Imagine what's going on in private industry. We can't wait until it happens and then try to react and say, oh, we should probably elect some Democrats to help us out here, because then the crisis will have already happened. We have to end the Republican Party. You know what they are. You know what they're willing to do. You know they are bought and sold. They are fully owned by the very companies that are wanting to embrace this. Exactly, jar mayonnaise. The biggest business expense is always humans. Humans are expensive. We are. And it's coming, folks. It's coming. And believe me, I can't stress this enough. You're not the customer. Your boss is. Your company is. Mod Day, union strong, people and families first. That's what I'm talking about, Mod. That's where I'm going. That's what I'm wrapping this up with. Folks, we have to surge hard left. The Republican Party that exists today, there is no room for movement in the right direction to deal with this future that is, it's starting now. That is why you're seeing groups like Ziklag. They're using the churches because pastors are whores for the most part. Yeah, I really said that out loud. Pastors are whores. If anything that will pay them money, they will say. For Christ's sake, they sell God right now. Ziklag specifically is a group of ultra wealthy families that see this coming. They know it's coming. They are working right now to make sure the tax structures don't change to help you, that the government can't react to what is coming to help you, to make sure that there's no guaranteed basic income or any other response, nationalized healthcare, all the things that we're desperately going to need in this country to deal with this financial change. The Billionaire Frat Boy Club is shooting their shot. They are desperately trying to push Republicans into power just to make sure we can't do a damn thing about this future that is already here. Folks, if they can run a war off AI, they can run a business. And it is the best paying jobs that are going to go away. What can we do about it? Well, it's counterintuitive. Immigration is a huge thing that we can do about it, because there are so many things when it comes to people and servicing people that creates jobs that can't be automated. So yeah, while it seems like, okay, automation is going to be taking jobs, we want less people. No, we don't. You want more people. because the more people there are, the more people that need to be serviced, the more people that need products, the more people that need clothes. It's really difficult. They've tried the virtual reality stores. That doesn't fly. People don't like that. They tried to end the big box stores where people can go in and put their hands on products and look at them, and it didn't work because that's just a line we won't cross. When we buy products, we want to see the products. And when we see the products, we need a person there to talk to. We don't want to talk to a machine. Having more people in this country, young people that can work, is actually an answer to those job losses that AI creates, because AI, I promise you, is not meant to take away grunt work. It isn't. AI is meant to take away high-paying jobs. Again, I'm going to end it with this. Who do you want in charge as this happens? Do you want the Republicans or do you want the Democrats? And that is a direct question to you. That's what I've got for you today. If you've got, we've got a few minutes left. If you'd like to throw some comments out there, some questions, more than happy to do a roundtable. But that's my question I'm leaving you with. Who do you want in charge as this happens? Because Sarah's coming. Sarah is coming. While you figure out what you'd like to talk about on the roundtable, I've got a video for you of the Ukrainians blowing up that bridge. Alexander Sirski's no joke. And by the way, yeah, we're going to, in the next show, Wednesday's show, we're definitely going to talk about Tim Walz and Nebraska. That was amazing, folks. If you're on social media, take a look, man. That was a hell of a, Tim Walz is killing it. He is killing it. And yeah, somebody just put in the comment, notice they blew up the end away from the civilians. Absolutely true. Something else that we're getting reporting out of is that the Russians that live in these towns are absolutely 100% embracing the Ukrainian forces that are coming into town because they're angry, because their own forces abandoned them, and B, because the Ukrainian forces are basically just enforcing one rule: no filming. You can't film pictures of us because we can't have you sharing intelligence on the internet that may be used against us. Other than that, they're exactly, Salty Sylvester. The Ukrainians they're keeping the electricity on. They're keeping the water running. They're bringing in humanitarian aid. They're treating the people with respect. They're not raping people. They're not destroying apartment buildings. They're doing an amazing job of winning over the hearts and minds in the Russian territory that they're taking over. And Putin, I got to tell you, there's a lot of people, and again, I follow a lot of different mill bloggers. They'll tell you Putin does not react. He doesn't. He sits and watches the way things shake out. And that's what they're saying is happening right now. He's watching to see where things go, and then he'll come up with a more calculated response. I believe that he's absolutely frozen. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. Yeah. I believe he is 100% absolutely frozen at this point because they threw forces at the Ukrainians in Kursk and failed. they're going to have to give up eastern Ukraine to retake their territory in Kursk. And I think right now, I don't know that Putin can make that decision, because either one is the end for him. If he stays with his troops in eastern Ukraine, exactly, Laura, exactly. Laura L. said he's a dead man walking. Exactly. Cecilia Coleman says, is it true Putin put his personal guard over the military and fired the other guy? Yeah, he's been making all kinds of personnel changes. It's not so much his personal guard as he's kind of switching teams. There's been political internal warfare within the military for a while, and he's kind of switched teams, which is really showing, again, a lot of the shakiness that's going on in the Russian military. B. Well says, I want heartfelt dims to keep my great grandchildren safe. Amen. Back to the question I asked you, who do you want in charge? We're going to see we're on the cusp of major societal changes here. Who do you want in charge going forward? You want people that keep saying, well, we're going to go back to the 1950s and bigotry, and we're going to try to build these fortifications at the border? Or do you want people that are like, you know what? We're going to have a great relationship with all our allies and all our neighbors, and we're going to focus on the people, and we're going to focus on what needs to be done with the people. We're going to help with things like, we've got kind of a housing crunch going on in combination with parts of the country that are seeing free fall in housing prices, which is terrible. This is a complex situation. We're going to deal with it as though it is a complex situation. Or do you want people that just talk? For Christ's sake, James Comer is opening an investigation on Tim Walz. They just announced that day before yesterday. James Comer is going to use his congressional committee to open an investigation on Tim Walz. Come on. So, yeah, again, I'll ask you one more time. Who do you want? You want Democrats or you want Republicans? Got a couple minutes left. If there's any questions you have or anything you'd like to discuss, let's do it, man. This is Roundtable. This is live chat, baby. I'm here for you. Exactly. Well said, Sharon Reddy. Exactly. You cannot deal with modern problems walking backwards into the past. You just can't. That reality doesn't exist. But don't kid yourself. The psychology of human beings has not changed. Bigots will give anything. They'll sacrifice their families, their jobs, their future, anything to feed their bigotry. It is who they are at their core. And man, it works. It works. Do not ever allow yourself to be kidded into believing that these people are not going to respond to this. These Republicans are going to respond to this bigotry. They are. You cannot let your foot off the gas. Not this election, not the next election. We have to, top of the ticket all the way down to dog catcher. We've got to change our country fundamentally. We have to end the Republican Party so that something else, that actually a party that, it's happened in the past, folks. We've had political parties go away before. I'm going to ask you to quit doing that in chat. If you don't quit doing it, I'm going to have to mute you. I don't want to have to do that. Oh no, I'm not pissed. I'm not. It's just, it makes it difficult to keep track of. I appreciate you. I really do. Don't worry. I'm just saying, please don't do that. What do I see? Great question, Randall. What do I see? A new Republican Party? No, that's not the way it works. Whenever you end a Republican, if you look back in history, past is prologue. Whenever a party is ended, like I'm talking about, those that are holding on to power right now in the Republican Party will attempt to keep it alive, and they will stick with it. It are those that are willing to change that will break off and form the new party. And that new party will eclipse the old. That's how it works. So no, it won't be a new Republican Party. What will happen is the worst of the worst, the Maga, the Trumpers, will hold on to the Republican Party unto its death. When I say in the Republican Party, is when you defeat it over and over and over, people will leave. People that want to actually do things will leave. They may not agree with us politically. We may not hold the same policies, objectives, but they'll leave the Republican Party because they will see they can get nothing done. They can do nothing within the Republican Party framework. So no, it won't be a new Republican Party. It will be a new entity all unto itself that is just built differently. Exactly, the Whigs. There are very few here as well. There are very few signs out here as well, and it's really showing. And I'm telling you that was a true story I told you. Ask Mrs. Texas Paul. They were trying to get, they were trying to get my goat. They were trying to get her excited, showing that Trump commercial. Nobody was interested. I mean, it went away immediately. Oh, and I wanted to thank you for that Lighthouse coffee you sent me. I'm actually enjoying the last of it right now. That was very kind of you to send that. I'm very grateful. That was really nice of you to send that. You send it. I really appreciate it. It was wonderful. I actually liked it quite a bit. I did. Thank you. Lighthouse coffee. It's from a small local. There are folks, man, if you really like coffee, there are small roasters all over the country. And this was a gift that someone sent me from a smaller roaster called Lighthouse. It's a little bit more dark roast than what I normally drink. I don't know about you. I'm not really into super bitter coffee. But this isn't really, it's not. It's got a lot of bold flavor in it, but there's not a lot of bitter notes to it. I was actually really, really surprised. It's really good. Bustelo has the most loyal customers I have ever seen. Yeah, folks, there are. And I know the show's getting a little slow. I apologize. But this is the roundtable. We're going to talk about what you want to talk about. We're a community here. We're going to talk about what you want to talk about. And I appreciate you. We're all a community. I appreciate you being here. I love the conversation. There are, I guess we could call them micro roasters all over the country. People making a good living, really. They buy the smaller end size of the roasters, and they will just roast their own. They buy specific beans that they want. It's not all Arabica beans. It's not all, and they'll come up with mixes that are just custom. And some of them are knocking it out of the damn park. They really are. No, I don't know exactly what you're talking about. Now I'm gonna have to look that up. Oh yeah. I love pumpkin spice. I know there's a lot of people. It's like Miracle Whip. You either love it or you hate it. Um, Pumpkin spice, I love. I cannot wait. We're less than 10 days. Pardon me. We're right at 10 days from the Burr months, man. Pumpkin spice is coming back. I'm really excited. Oktoberfest beer's already here. What type of party do I see emerging from the Republican Party goes away? Imagine the best thing. What I see, the very right of the Democratic Party politically is what I see the Republicans turning into. I see the political needle moving left. Just reality is just forcing it on us. I mean, what's going to happen to the economy over the next 10 years? And believe me, the billionaires know it. That's why they're shooting their shot now, to try to get this control now. But yeah, it's going to be what replaces the Republican Party will be like the very right of the Democratic Party. And folks, that's not a bad thing. I mean, for Christ's sake, Dick Nixon would be called a flaming liberal commie today. I mean, you go back and look at Nixon's policies and the things that he did. They would not accept him in the Republican Party today. He would be a left of center Democrat. So yeah, that needle needs to move back. It really does. Hell, Ronald Reagan, you can go back, as much as I despised Ronald Reagan, you can go back and look at some of the policies he advocated for, and they would not allow him in the Republican Party today. I'm sorry, I missed that question. I'm sorry. Do I drink day old coffee? No, I don't. I pour it out and keep going. Yeah, I know the short show. I I've already gotten the side eye that no, but we're gonna do it. I'm gonna be late and I don't care. It's my life. Yeah. Nixon, um, he would be considered a scorching liberal today. He really would. That's how perverted the right and the Republican Party has become. I got an email from Darla. It is the cutest thing. I need to post it. It really is. Um, Her dogs have figured out that when the theme music for the end of the show starts, they're getting fed. So they go nuts. I love it. I love it. Well, folks, it's been great talking to you. I really hope you understand we've got to keep our foot on the gas. There are things coming down the pike. That was the whole point of the show. The corporate media is sold out to the billionaire class. They're going to do what the billionaire class wants. The billionaire class is shooting their shot. They really are. They know that change is coming, and they want to control it. They want to keep you from taxing them. They want to keep you from doing things that just help the average American person, because they know they're the ones that are going to have to pay for it. They are. They're going to benefit from the AI. They're going to get more money out of AI. They don't want to have to give any of it back to your average American. They're shooting their shot right now. That was the point of the whole show. Let's do this. Vote blue up and down the ballot. Now enjoy some Texas cities at night.